V'daber Hashem Moshe b'midbar Sinai b'ol moed. Hashem spoke to Moshe in Midbar Sinai, in the Sinai desert, which is vast. So speaking about the broader location, and in that very large area, b'ol moed, in that very specific location, which is the Ol Moed, the communion tent, which is located in Midbar Sinai. So beginning, he spoke to Midbar Sinai. Where in Midbar Sinai? B'ol Moed. Be'echad l'chodesh. Now we speak of the date. Be'echad l'chodesh hasheni, the first of the second month, which is the month of Iyar. Bashana Hashenis. So speaking now, when we speak of the year, we're speaking specifically the day of the month, the second month, the second year. Let's say some Meretz Mitzrayim Leimar, when they went out from Egypt, saying, seemingly, the Mishnah, the Pasuk, should state its facts in a similar sequential pattern. We speak about the larger location, and then we speak specifically where in that larger location. It should say the second year, the first of the month in the second year. But it goes, when we speak about the location, we speak about the vast location, specifically where in that vast location. Midbar Sinai, B'ol Moed. Then we speak about time-wise, we speak about the first of the second month in the second year. If we maintain the symmetry of the Mishnah, it should say like this, of the Pasuk. Midbar Sinai, Ol Moed. In the second year, that's the larger amount of time. The first of the second month of that year. Right? We're going from the larger to the more specific. That's Midbar Sinai, Ol Moed. Second year, the first of the second month. But yet, when it speaks about location, it speaks about the vast location. Where in that vast location is it located? B'ol Moed. In that very specific location, in this vast location, the first of the second month in the second year. So time-wise, we speak about specific and then the larger amount of time, which is the year. Why? That's the Orach Chaim Kodesh, but he points out, why does the Torah invert the order? Okay. So the Orach Chaim Kodesh answers, and factually, when we speak about Midbar Sinai, B'ol Moed, we're going from the more specific to the larger. What is Ol Moed? Ol Moed is the location of the Shekhinah. That's Hashem's presence is there. The word everything pales to that location is an understatement. Midbar Sinai, that's very, very infinitesimal. Ol Moed. And what's the proof that the order is from the smaller to the larger? Because it says afterwards, Echad l'chodesh hasheni, shana hashenis. And that's why the pasuk symmetry-wise is the same symmetry, from the smaller to the larger. We find in the Agora, we find in many other locations, Hashem is referred to Mokom. Baruch HaMokom, Baruch Hu. Hashem is the Mokom. When a person comforts a person, consoles a person, sitting Shiva, say Mokom Yinachem Eschem. The Mokom. Why is Hashem referred to Mokom? So Chazal tell us, because Kihu Mekomo Shel Olam Ve'eino Olam Mekomo. God is the location of the world is not his location. So Chaim Volozhin explains it this way. What is location? Location has a capacity to contain. That's the concept. That's what a location is. You have a tabletop. You give me its dimensions, because based on that, it has a certain capacity to contain so much on that tabletop. That is the mokom. What is the basis for existence? Every aspect of existence. Hashem wills existence. So why does existence exist in its capacity, in its context, in every sense of what it is? Because Hashem wills it should be that. So what is the basis for location? For that location? Hashem is the basis. God continuously, every moment, renews creation. So as the location is the basis for what's contained in the location, Hashem is the basis for existence. Because if he should ever cease to will existence, his existence would revert back to pre-existence. So Hashem is Mokom. So if the Ol Moed is the location of the Mokom, that is the Mokom. That's the totality of everything. So when we speak of Midbar Sinai, even though vastness-wise, it seems to be, it's everything, but it's nothing because everything is dependent on that Ol Moed, because that's the location of the Shekhinah. So when I was thinking about the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, the Mishnah tells us in Sanhedrin, if you save one Jewish life, it's the equivalent you save the whole world. The whole world. You have billions and billions of people. One Jew, the dimension of the Shema is the equivalent of the whole world combined. It has greater value. How's it possible? We're not talking about quantitative. Quantitative, it is. We're talking about innate value. What is the innate value of Jew versus the innate value of the whole world? And the innate value of one neshama of a Jew is more than the whole world. Because the whole world was only created for the neshama of that one Jew. Therefore, in terms of physicality, it's less than a speck on the spectrum. Like literally like a granule of sand. Not even noticed. But in terms of the essence of what the Jew is, that one Jew is the whole world. Same idea. It seems to be one thing, but it's not that. Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin that if a Jew's life is in jeopardy, you override the whole Torah. The life of Jews supersedes the whole Torah in its entirety. With the Shabbos, with the Shem Kippur, with its kashrus, everything. Because Torah says, "V'chai b'hem lo she'yamos b'hem." You should live by my Torah, you should not die by my Torah. However, if it's the three cardinal sins, Gila, Arai, Shvit, Hasdama, Avodah Zorah, then that does not supersede the Torah. One has to give his life. So the Gemara says, how do we know Avodah Zorah, quotes a posuk? How do we know adultery, incest, quotes a posuk? How do we know one cannot take a life to save a life? So that's a svara. What's the svara? My chozes the domach sumich tvei mechaver. Who says your blood is redder than your fellow's blood? So Rashi explains in Sanhedrin, when the Torah says v'chai bohem, you should live by my Torah and not die. Because of the preciousness of the Nishmas Yisrael, the Nishmas Yisrael is, he says, it's kol kach yakor. It's so precious, it has greater value than the Torah's entirety. Therefore, but when it comes to pitting one life, one Jew's life against another Jew's life, who said your neshama is more precious than your fellow's neshama? Only God knows whose neshama is more precious. As a result of that, not being able to know that, you have to be passive and let things just take their course. That's why you can't take a life to save a life. This is how Rashi explains, my chozes the domach sumach tvei mechaver. Who said your blood is redder? In terms of the Torah itself, since the ultimate value is the neshama of a Jew, therefore it supersedes the Torah itself. When it's one Jew's life versus another Jew's life, who said your neshama is more precious than the other Jew? Although he seems to be an ordinary person compared to this other person, he's a mega Jew. We don't have the capacity to make that evaluation. As a result of that, you have to be passive and not do anything. Shev al taseh. So again, but you're only one person. It seems to be, comparatively speaking, you don't compare to the other person. In terms of his intellectual capacity, even the spiritual capacity, that's not the yardstick to make that evaluation. Therefore, you have to be passive. Same idea. But you're one barely noticeable person versus the world. Doesn't make a difference. Many years ago, there was a seminary. The seminary still exists, but it was founded by the daughter of Afut Nazir Tzark Livrocha Her name was Rebbetzin David. She had a seminary in Yerushalayim, and it was considered like the Harvard of seminaries for girls. And she was lecturing the girls, and she said, and Bill Clinton was the president of the United States at the time. And she explains to the girls, when we say the bracha in the morning, Shlo Asani Goy, we thank God that he did not make us a Gentile. She says, but you realize, we're not talking about the non-Jew on Skid Row. I'm saying Skid Row. Or any ordinary non-Jew. He says, we're even talking about Bill Clinton. When we say Shlo Asani Goy, we thank God we were not made a Goy, even as Bill Clinton. So this girl, she was on a date with a boy, Legwood boy. So he listens. He says, when we say Shlo Asani Isha, it means even Rebbetzin David. That's what he said to her. You get it? See, it didn't register yet. Repeat the word again. Shema Yisrael.
So we were talking about the holiness of the world, that in the pasuk Shema Yisrael, that the Shin represents the Shabbos. The mem is the mikdash, and the ayin is the olam. In the reverse order, obviously. Olam was created first. The Beis Hamikdash was considered holy because that's where Hashem lived. And the Shabbos overrode the Beis Hamikdash. But more important than that, Chai B'hem, that the Jew overrides the Shabbos to save a Jew. And we learn that from the pasuk Shema Yisrael.
If you ask any person, what is the objective of existence? The giveaway is the first few words of the Torah. Bereshis bara Elokim. Bereshis bara Elokim, that's it says it in 3 words. B'shul Torah shnikras Reishis, b'shul Yisrael shnikras Reishis. God created this world with its vastness, its level of breadth and depth, seemingly borders on the infinite. For what purpose? B'shul Torah shnikras Reishis, b'shul Yisrael shnikras Reishis. For the sake of the Torah, and Klal Yisrael, without Klal, the Torah has no value. Its value is only because there is a nation called Yisrael who are meant to study Torah, to advance themselves through the Torah, to expand their spirituality, to be able to want to have a relationship with Hashem. That's what it is, exactly what you're saying. So it has greater value than Shabbos, the Mikdash, and anything else. Shema Yisrael, that's what it is. Okay. Let's see Rashi, the first Rashi in Bamidbar. Mitochi bosan lefonov. Due to the exceptional level of love that Hashem has for us. Mitochi bosan. It's interesting. Rashi, every word he writes, it's very specific, it's with an intent. He could have said, Mitochi bosan, due to his exceptional love, Moda Osam Kol Sho. He's always counting us. Kshiyotzim Mitzrayim, Monon. When we left Egypt, we were counted. Shenofel Egel. When we had the casualties due to the Egel, Monon, Leida, Minyon, Hanusorim. To know how many survived that tragedy. Shabol Hashishchinoso Aleim Betochon. Bechod Ben Nisan, Hukam Mishkan. When the Mishkan took on its permanent status, again he counted us. And now, the first of year of the second year, again he counts us. And what is the whole concept of counting? Something you value, you count. Something that you don't value, you don't count. But Rashi says more than that. Mitochi bosan lefonov. Because of his love before him. We find later there's a pasuk. In one pasuk, we know how the Torah is very careful, not saying a word or even a letter that's superfluous. Every word, every letter has a meaning and a significance, because otherwise the Torah would not say it. And the Torah goes out of its way. The Gemara goes out of its way that a Jew has to speak in a more refined manner, based on a pasuk in Noach, when the species when he was told to take the kosher species, non-kosher species, a non-kosher species is normally known as Beima Hatameo, a contaminated species. That's a non-kosher species. But when the Torah refers to the non-kosher species, take two of the non-kosher species to go into the table, to the ark, it says, Habehema asher einenu tahora. The behema asher einenu Torah, the behema which is not pure. Saying not pure rather than saying contaminated is a more refined way to speak. And the Torah goes out of its way to add those extra letters, and extra 9 letters, the Gemara says, to teach us that when you speak in a more refined manner.
Has scheduled a vote on the Right to Contraception Act.
That's the way you speak. So every word, every letter is with a specific intent. That's what it's about. And yet in one pasuk we find that the words B'nai Yisrael are mentioned 5 times in one pasuk. Rather than using a pronoun, B'nai Yisrael, 5 times in one pasuk. And Rashi makes it a point over there. Why is it mentioned 5 times? It corresponds to Chamisha Chumshei Torah. To show how special we are, because the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. That's number 5. So over there, the Medrash says, Moshe David Domer. What is it analogous to? A king is speaking about his son, who he loves, his only son who's the prince. And whenever he refers to him, he doesn't say, my son, Chaim, and he refers to him by a pronoun. But every time he mentions his name, he refers to him, it's by name. Why? Because every time he mentions his name, it evokes the love between the father and the son. So if you love your child, you love your grandchild, you always refer to that person by name. Because when you say the name, you touch. When you say the pronoun, you're not touched the same way. So that's an indication of the love you have for that person. Chibasa lefanov. It's like it's before us. It's like we always were before Hashem's eyes. Kavayochel. That he counts us continuously. He just counted us. Again, count. Because it's chibasa lefanov. It's like God doesn't want us to be out of his vision. We say, out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind. The Gedolei Torah, they have the Torah committed to their minds. Sometimes if you see, many years ago, there was somebody used to come, he lives in Englewood, Richie Schlossel. He was driving on the road, and there was an accident, terrible accident. And the accident was thrown from the car and was lying on the road. And his son was in the car with him. I don't know how old he was. He was a young teenager. And being a doctor, he went out of the car. And his son saw this gruesome, terrible accident. It affected him negatively because he saw how badly this person was hurt and killed. He couldn't get it out of his mind. It became so etched, embedded in his mind and his emotion. It took, I don't know how long to get it out of his mind. It affected him negatively. If you have one of a kind of experience, the most positive experience in your life, that experience will always be before your eyes. You can never get it out of your mind. The Chofetz Chaim once said on Rebbe Chanan Wasserman, Zeichet Tzaddik Levrocha, the closest Talmud of Rebbe Chanan of the Chofetz Chaim is the Rebbe Chanan Wasserman. And he said Rebbe Chanan Wasserman knew the whole Torah, the written Torah, the oral Torah, he knew it word for word. And he said that Rebbe Chanan Wasserman didn't have the photographic memory. There were people in Europe, Gedol, they had photographic memories. Rebbe Chanan Wasserman did not have a photographic memory. But yet, he had the whole Torah committed. Bavli, Yerushalmi, was all committed to memory, word by word. Gemara, Rashi, Tosas. Why? Because he says that if you have a one-of-a-kind of experience in life, even if you have an ordinary memory, you don't forget that experience because it affects you to such a degree. Rebbe Chanan Wasserman revered and valued every word of Torah to be precious beyond our understanding what precious is. It's like you have one kind of a diamond, and every diamond is unique. Therefore, it was like etched in his mind, in his emotion. That's the degree he read the Torah. That's what the Chofetz Chaim said on Rabbi Chanan Wasserman. That's why, that was the basis why he was able to retain the Torah's entirety. The love Hashem has for us, it's not to what we can't even. It's unfathomable. It's lefonov. Everything's lefonov by Hakadosh Baruch Hu. And we say ein shicha. We say on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. On Rosh Hashanah ein shicha lefnei chisach v'decha. There's no such thing as forgetting before the heavenly throne. Ein shicha lefnei chisach v'decha. This is even more so. But it's not only shicha. It's the way he relates to what we are. It's chibosan's lefonov. That's the degree he vows. So therefore, we find Bnei Yisrael mentioned 5 times in one pasuk to indicate the love and the value of the Jewish people. Keneged Chumisha Chumshi Torah. It corresponds to the 5 Chumoshim. Why? Why? Why is that the basis? Only because at Sinai we said Nasa v'Nishma. That's why the world exists. The world was created B'Shul Yisrael Shnikras Reishis B'Shul Torah Shnikras Reishis. And because we met that objective at Sinai, when we said Nasa v'Nishma, if that's the case, everything is contingent on us. We gave his intent value because we made the choice to say Nasa v'Nishma. As a result of that, in one pasuk, we're referred to 5 times. There's no words that are superfluous in the Torah. But that's not superfluous. It's to reveal and to show the chibos lefonov, because, and it's 5 to correspond to Chamisha Chumash Torah, because there's only that exists because we agreed to accept it. Therefore, that's the basis for that special love that he has for us. As a result of that, at every moment where he could count us, he counts us, which to display and exhibit that special love, which is lefonov. Early Pirkei Avos now, and before you start the mission of Pirkei Avos, every chapter, we say Kol Yisrael Yesh Lam Chet L'Mabo. Every Jew has a share in the world to come. It's the first Mishnah and the closing parak chapter of Sanhedrin. It's called Chelik. Kol Yisrael Yesh Lam Chet L'Mabo. A non-Jew does not have a Chet L'Mabo. What is Olam Haba? What is the world to come? The world to come, as the Gemara explains in Brachos, is tzaddikim yoshvim v'choseim b'rosheim. The tzaddikim sit and they have their crowns on their heads, v'neni niziv hashchina, and they're able to benefit from the radiance of God's presence, whatever that means. As human beings, we can't relate to that, but it's something that we say schar b'yam aleko. There's no reward in this world for any mitzvah because there's not enough time or innate value to reward you for one mitzvah. But in the world to come, that's where you have schar. What is that schar? The schar is to what degree are you able to cleave to Hashem? To what degree are you spiritualized? And based on the spiritualization of the person through the mitzvah, that is the ultimate. And that was the purpose of creation. Hashem created the world, Olam Chesed Yiboneh, because God, as the Ramchal explains, is the essence of good on the absolute level. Good does good. So he created a setting for man to be a beneficiary of that goodness if we make the right choice. That's Kol Yisrael Yesh Lam Chet L'Olam Haba. But only the Jew, the only way we can have a Chet L'Olam Haba is only through the Torah. Yisrael v'oraisu kutsh brichu chatu. The Jewish people, Yisrael v'orais and the Torah, and kutsh brichu is one. We only mesh with Hashem only if what? It's only through the Torah itself. And since the nations of the world rejected it, and their neshama has no relevance to Torah, only the Jew, as a result of that, we ourselves, we have a relevance to having a relationship, they don't. Even though the Gemara says, and the Rambam rules that there are Chassidei Umas Olam, there are the devout Gentiles who observe the Shem Mitzvah Bnei Noach, but their relevance to Olam Haba it's a different Olam Haba. It's like, do you enter the palace or you out in the hinterlands? The Jew is a prince. The Gemara Mishnah says in Shabbos that Klaus are B'nai Melochim. We are considered princes. The world are considered commoners. The Jew is the prince. At Sinai, we became Mamlechas Kohanim V'Kodosh. We, the kingly, priestly nation, that happened at Sinai as a result of Kabbalah Torah. Therefore, we have that connection. They don't have the connection. And that's what we always speak about. Kores is a person, God forbid, he's deserving of spiritual excision. He's excised from the people. Only Klaus has that relation with Hashem. And you as an individual, we as individuals, if you're part of the whole, you have a relationship. You're no longer part of the whole. He's nichros Yisrael me'amel. He's excised from the people or from Klal Yisrael. He has no relation with God. So it's only if you're part of the Jewish people. The non-Jew is not part of the Jewish people. He can't have that relation with Hashem. Therefore, only Kol Yisrael yesh lem chelik habo. We naturally have that share in the world to come. We have a capacity. So I always mention from the Ramchal in the Das Tfunos, he explains everything in existence, even angels, the greatest angel is finite. Finite means limitation. Hashem is infinite. Atu Rishon, Atu Achron. Hashem is referred to in the Kabbalistic words as Ein Sof. It's Ein Sof. There's no beginning, there's no end. So he says, the Ramchal, even though we are finite, but we can have relevance to the infinite. How do we have relevance to the infinite? There's a mitzvah of Botidbok. You should cleave to Hashem. So he explains, a person is the greatest tzaddik in the world, but you're still finite. What about if you cleave? He says, if you take and you want to graft a branch onto a tree, and you graft it perfectly, eventually the ecology of that branch assumes the ecology of that tree itself. And what flows through that tree will flow through that branch. If a Jew attaches himself to Hashem the way it's prescribed at the ultimate level, so we become part of an infinite system. As individuals, we're finite. But if you follow his prescription and you cleave to him and you attach yourself to him, to what are you attaching yourself to? To the infinite. As a result of that, we say, Atem veikem Hashem Elokechem, chaim kulchem hayom. When you dovik to Hashem Elokechem, chaim kulchem, that's the ultimate. Because to what did you connect yourself? You connected yourself to an infinite system. And so therefore the Jew is part of being infinite. And that's why the Jewish people are an eternal people. Because we are connected to the infinite for that reason. You say, it doesn't mean you have a free pass. You have to earn it. But you realize a commoner cannot be a prince under any circumstance because he doesn't have the royal blood flowing in his veins. The Jew is born with royal blood. However, you have an ability, a potential that you're able to rise to a level of development and advancement which an ordinary human being cannot advance to. Why? Because you have a different dimension of soul. So to be able to expand it and advance it to meet its potential, we were given mediums to bring that about. What are those mediums called? It's called Torah mitzvahs. But if a person doesn't engage in Torah mitzvah, even though you have the membership, but you understand, but they don't let you through those gates to get there. You have a right if you meet certain criteria. The other people, even if you meet that criteria, they have no relevance to it. Because that classification is a different classification. Kol Yisrael Yishum Chelik Haba means potentially wise, every Jew has relevance to that location. You just, if you follow what's prescribed, then you're admitted at various levels based on your level of accomplishment. Others, regardless of what their accomplishment is, they cannot be admitted there.
That I understand. But this ability or this royalty was bestowed upon us because at one moment in time, we said the right thing when presented with the situation of the mountain over our heads or whatever, right? So there's no...
Let's talk for a moment, okay?
There's no buildup of
the Gemara tells us, Yisrael Afpi Shechota Yisrael. The Jew says, you know, I want to abdicate the throne. I want to be like any other Gentile. And he becomes an apostate, becomes a pagan, gives it all up. Regardless of what position you take, you can't change. Your soul, you have a Jewish soul, and therefore it compromises you. You know, a person says, you know, I want to be a bird. And I'm going to be able to ingest and eat things which a human being is not able to. Yeah, but you're a human being. Your whole biological system, your genetics of a human being. You're not an animal. A Jew has the genetics, spiritual genetics. He has a different soul. Now we can talk about why we merited that soul. Okay. Now, just as we speak about genealogy in a family, Jewish people, we have a genealogy. Where does the genealogy begin? Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Avram was the person who introduced monotheism to the world. He's the founding father of what? Of the Jewish people. Then there was Yitzchak and Yaakov. They have the foundation. Then there were the 12 tribes that were fathered by Yaakov. This is the building, the spiritual infrastructure, the genealogy of the Jewish people. We had to go to Egypt to be purged, to undergo certain levels of development. We went through 49 levels of advancement. Those are the 49 days we count from when we left Egypt to we arrived at Sinai. On the 50th day, after we advanced all these various levels of spiritual advancement, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, now they're ready for real time. Now they have a capacity that if they make that decision and embrace me, they will assume an actualization of soul, which their soul is greater than the greatest angel. And they will meet the objective of creation. What is that? Nasiv Nishma. You accept my Torah, you are the people that address the objective of creation, therefore we will have a relationship from now on. You have the capacity to have the relationship. Now we have a new discussion. What about if you don't take advantage of it? You turn your back on the relationship. It doesn't change the reality you become. Because we were touched by Hashem at Sinai. Our neshamas expanded. There was a metamorphosis of who we became. We became, before Sinai, we were Noahites. Our obligations were limited. We had almost the same obligations as a non-Jew, except for circumcision and the mitzvahs that were given in Morah. We had a few mitzvahs given in Morah by the bitter oasis over there. But afterwards, we were still not Jews. We became Jews at Sinai. Atem kruyim Odom. You are now, you assume the classification of Odom, Adam before pre-sin. And as we mentioned many times in the name of the Gemara, if not for the Chet Egel, the Jews were reverted back pre-sin of Adam, death would have no relevance to us. It's only because we, unfortunately, sinned with the Chet Egel, we became post-sin, and we're subject to death. But that didn't change the reality of what we became due to the exposure of being exposed to the Shekhinah at that special level at Sinai, and we agreeable to accept the Torah. I'll give you an example.
So
A person has special parents, and the child's conceived, and now he's born. You mean from the moment of conception, because the woman, her ovum was fertilized by the special man, and she is that special woman, that child is a special child. The Gemara says, when does the neshama go into the child? At the time of conception. Because it's this woman and this man, therefore that neshama is that special neshama. What the child does with that neshama, that's choice. And every moment, that's part of our choice to make the right decision. That will determine to what degree are we going to address the potential of that neshama. I want to reply. Go ahead, Mark.
I would hazard a guess that most of what you're just sharing with us is not conveyed in most Jewish day schools, at least in the type of community in which I reside.
Many years ago, there was a certain person, this question he asked me close to 40 years ago. Until today, he still goes back to the question, although he's an observant Jew. Rabbi, that we say we're the chosen and we're special, does that touch on elitism? Are we elitists? Doesn't seem to be a little arrogant that we are and they're not? That's the question he asked me. So I asked him, a person is boiled, and this person came from England. So, he's a subject of the, of the crown. I said, if you're part of the royal family, you're royalty. Being royalty in the reality, is that elitism? They're royalty, everybody else are commoners. Elitism means we say everybody's on the same level and you think you're more. This is not thinking we're more. Royalty is royalty. Hashem said at Sinai, you are my royal, you are the equivalent of my children. You are Bnei Kelchat, you are the sons of God. And you're meant to even be eternal, not to be subject to the rest of the world is subject to. It's been proven. The only people that are eternal, no people have undergone and experienced what we've experienced throughout history. And all our oppressors, all the civilizations that tried to snuff us out, they're in the dustbins of history, and we're still functioning and thriving. We have our peaks and valleys, but we're still here. And the core of the Jewish people, we're more than just a nationality. We're more than a culture. It's a religion. Judaism is a religion. And it's a religion now which was given to us by Hashem, openly, face to face. And God, well, why are we eternal? And I always mention, and Al mentioned, quoting me, or I quoted Rav Yaakov Emden, that although we don't live in an era of revealed miracles, there's one revealed miracle which will exist till the end of time, the existence of the Jewish people. That we were able to survive and thrive and exist as we do, despite everything, that's a miracle greater than the splitting of the sea. But how? How does it work? The answer is because since we're connected to the infinite, to God, and as God is infinite, the existence of Jewish people are infinite, or forever, eternal, for that reason. What we're discussing now, so you could say, in what way am I special? Unless you allow yourself to be mentored through God's program, you have no sense of who you are. You have a person who's imbued with Kedusha. How is a person imbued with Kedusha? He's having that special moment. He lives a life of Torah mitzvahs. Every time we do a mitzvah, we're spiritualized. Asher kidshanu mitzvah. God sanctified us with the mitzvah. And as I explained, the mitzvah sanctifies us. That's the medium which allows us to connect to God. So every mitzvah we do based on the quality of the mitzvah. You do lishmo shlo lishmo, based on your level of belief and your love will determine to what degree you're going to be impacted by doing that mitzvah. Asher kidshanu mitzvah. You put on your talis, your tefillin. You say a bracha. We say Hashem Elokeinu. What do you mean Hashem Elokeinu? God's is the God of all mankind. He created everyone. So what's Elokeinu? Why are we so possessive? Hashem Elokeinu. There's always the Elokeinu. The answer is because we have that relationship. No one else has that relationship. Because what happened at Sinai, they're out, even if a person's Chasidu Mas'olam, he is the creator, but it's not Elokeinu. A prince calls his father, although he's the king. If you're a commoner, you say master. That's all. It's not Elokeinu. That's the difference. Because of that one moment, and we had the capacity, because we went through all the various levels of development, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the 12 tribes, and through the thick and thin of Egypt, and we ascended to the 49th level of purity, we were ready for real time, and at that moment, we embraced it, we became attached to Hashem, and we became the Mamlech Kohanim Goy Kodesh at that moment, for that reason.